Blackheads usually begin when pores get clogged with excess oil and dead skin cells, so prevention works best when skincare stays gentle, regular, and simple rather than harsh, aggressive, or constantly changing. Wash acne-prone skin no more than twice a day, and also after heavy sweating, using a mild cleanser and lukewarm water, because frequent washing, rough scrubbing, and very hot or very cold water can irritate the skin and make acne seem worse. Do not try to squeeze, scrape, or clean out blackheads at home, because that can worsen inflammation and may increase the risk of lasting marks or scarring. Choose oil-free or non-comedogenic skincare, sunscreen, and makeup when possible. Remove makeup before bed and keep oily hair products away from the face. Over-the-counter ingredients such as salicylic acid, adapalene, and benzoyl peroxide can help unclog pores or support acne control, but they can cause dryness or irritation at first, so it makes sense to start slowly and use a light moisturizer if needed. Improvement usually takes several weeks rather than happening overnight, and if acne becomes painful, widespread, scar-forming, or does not improve after a reasonable trial of self-care, it is sensible to see a dermatologist. And now, with that practical advice placed neatly at the front, like a folded towel on a bathroom shelf, let the rest of the evening belong to laughter, because in a small retirement town in western Kentucky, where the porches were deep, the church bells were confident, and every resident considered themselves retired only from payroll and never from commentary, there lived a 78-year-old widow named Clara Jean Holloway, who had reached the age where she no longer believed in pretending that foolishness was mysterious. In Clara Jean's opinion, foolishness was one of the few things in American life that still arrived on time. Clara Jean lived in a brick house with white trim, a broad porch, and a flower bed full of impatience that she defended with the same fierce practicality other women reserved for inheritance law. Her late husband, Milton, had been a mechanic, a church usher, a reliable payer of bills, and a dedicated purchaser of objects nobody needed and everyone remembered. Of all the decorative nonsense he had brought home over 42 years of marriage, his favorite was a concrete beaver wearing a red neckerchief and holding a little wooden sign that said, "Welcome, friends." He had won it at a volunteer fire department raffle after mishearing the ticket price and buying so many chances that the man selling tickets briefly started treating him like a donor. Milton carried the beaver home in the truck bed like a frontier monument and planted it beside the porch steps. Clara Jean had laughed until she had tears in her eyes, and because marriage is partly the art of surrendering to ridiculousness without filing a formal complaint, the beaver stayed. It stayed through summer storms, repainting, grandchild visits, one runaway lawn chair, and all the long quiet years after Milton died, when the house had to learn how to hold one person's silence without becoming unbearable. She never moved the beaver. She never explained why. At her age, she had learned that the objects holding memory together often looked absurd from the outside, and that was none of anybody's business. Her two closest friends were Patsy Dale Rucker, age 73, retired beauty shop owner, current possessor of a floral handbag with enough internal compartments to run a mid-sized emergency, and a woman who could smell gossip before it had fully formed, and Earl Womack, age 81, former feed store manager, amateur horseshoe expert, and a man who trusted cast iron, extension cords, and his own instincts more than he trusted trends, life hacks, or anyone wearing loafers without socks. Every Thursday morning, the three of them met at Daisy's Diner, where the coffee was dark, the biscuits were large enough to require commitment, and the waitress, a brisk woman named Jolene, called everybody honey, in a tone that managed to sound both warm and faintly supervisory. One Thursday in early June, Clara Jean arrived 12 minutes late with an expression so stern that Patsy Dale stopped spreading butter, and Earl lowered his coffee cup without taking the sip he had been approaching. "That face," Patsy said, narrowing her eyes, "means either the church social has gone unstable again or somebody has touched your porch." Clara Jean sat down, set her purse beside her, and said, "Someone has entered my beaver in a talent show." Earl blinked once. Patsy blinked twice. Jolene stopped in the aisle with the coffee pot suspended like testimony. "You're what?" Patsy asked. Clara Jean reached into her purse and produced a folded flyer. Across the top, in bright orange letters, surrounded by clip art musical notes and two deeply alarming microphones, were the words Annual Cedar Ridge Variety Night. Beneath the lineup of singers, storytellers, and one man doing something described only as comedy with whistling was Act Number 9, Beaver Charisma Interlude, featuring Buddy Holloway, community favorite. There, unmistakably, was a photo of her concrete beaver in his red neckerchief. "Buddy Holloway," Clara Jean said flatly, "is not his name. He does not have a charisma interlude, and if he did, I would not authorize it." Now, younger people might think the unauthorized enrollment of a decorative beaver into a community talent event is too minor to disturb breakfast. But younger people have not yet lived long enough to understand that retirement communities can turn harmless whimsy into an administrative event faster than a summer storm crosses a soybean field. In Cedar Ridge Acres, every fish fry, pie sale, hymn sing, and just for fun evening had the structural instability of a bridge built by optimistic cousins. It only took one woman with a clipboard and one sentence containing the phrase, "Wouldn't this be adorable?" to tip a whole town into ornamental crisis. By the time the eggs arrived, half the diner knew. A man at the counter said he had always found the beaver steady on camera. A woman near the pie case declared the activities committee a threat to boundaries. Jolene brought Clara Jean an extra side of bacon and said, "This feels like a protein situation." Patsy had already written "Beaver Matter" across the back of a placemat in capital letters. "We're investigating," she announced. Clara Jean sighed. "We're eating breakfast." "Both can happen," Earl said, which was exactly the sort of sentence older people say when meddling has already been internally approved. By 10:30, they were standing in Clara Jean's yard, beside the porch steps. The place where the beaver always stood, neckerchief forward, welcome sign out, was empty, not tilted, not shifted, empty. Clara Jean stopped so abruptly that Patsy nearly bumped into her. "No," she said quietly. Earl bent, hands on his knees, then straightened with the long, displeased sigh of a man whose joints had opinions, but whose curiosity outranked them. "Well," he said, "that improves the seriousness, because now it wasn't just a flyer, it was theft." Patsy found a strip of silver ribbon snagged on the petunia pot. Earl found shallow wheel marks in the dirt near the side path. Clara Jean looked at the bare patch by the steps and said, "They have abducted a memorial rodent for stage use." "Technically, a beaver isn't a rodent in the decorative sense," Earl said. Earl. Fair. By noon, the whole neighborhood knew. At the mailbox cluster, Mrs. Barnett asked if the show would still proceed without the beaver. At the pharmacy, a clerk said her mother had already invited 2 cousins because she heard the beaver would be appearing live. At chair yoga, 2 women paused in mid-stretch to ask whether charisma interlude meant dancing. Even the groundskeeper, Tomas, who had built his life around staying out of resident folklore, shook his head and said, "The beaver? That's too much." Clara Jean's daughter called from Nashville after hearing the story through a text chain that used 5 exclamation points where one would have done. "Mama," she said, laughing hard enough to need a second start. Why is Daddy's porch beaver in a stage scandal? Because this town has too much craft glue and too little restraint, Clara Jean replied. Are you upset? I am offended on principle and interested in names. The first reliable clue came from the receptionist at the senior center. She lowered her voice and said, I probably shouldn't mention this, but I saw Brenda Nell and Kathy Sue loading something heavy and furry-looking into the back of a golf cart near the pavilion yesterday afternoon. They also had streamers and looked far too pleased. Brenda Nell headed the activities committee. Kathy Sue handled decorations and once tried to install themed lanterns at a blood pressure screening. If anybody in Cedar Ridge Acres would kidnap a decorative beaver in the name of stagecraft, it would be those two women. So Clara Jean, Patsy, and Earl drove straight to the pavilion. Inside, volunteers were already setting up folding chairs, string lights, paper stars, and enough fabric swags to suggest either a talent show or a budget wedding. At the front of the room, on a hay bale beneath a hand-painted sign that read, Welcome to the Magic of Community, stood the beaver. He had been dusted. His neckerchief had been tied more neatly. Someone had added a tiny felt top hat. Clara Jean stopped dead. Oh no, she said. Now they've stylized him. Patsy clutched her chest in delight and outrage. Earl folded his arms. This, he muttered, is why committees should require licensing. Brenda Nell turned and smiled with the strained brightness of a woman who already knew she'd miscalculated, but still hoped decoration might save her. Clara Jean, she said. I was just about to call you. Then let us save both of us time, Clara Jean replied. Why is my late husband's decorative beaver wearing millinery? Kathy Sue, standing behind a table of paper lanterns, looked guilty enough to power a small village. Now, before you misunderstand, Brenda began. I do not misunderstand theft, Clara Jean said. You took private property from my porch, gave it a hat, and listed it as a stage act. Several nearby volunteers stopped pretending to tape streamers and simply listened. This is one of the strongest athletic skills of retired people. They can become an audience without moving a muscle. Brenda spread her hands. We only borrowed him. No. We meant to ask. You did not. We thought you'd be flattered by the theatrical kidnapping of my husband's concrete beaver? Kathy Sue tried the softer route. He just has such presence. Earl snorted. He weighs 40 pounds. Of course he has presence. Even Patsy had to turn slightly away to avoid laughing where it would weaken their legal standing. At that moment, Mrs. Carmichael from the community board came through the side door carrying a stack of programs and asked the doomed ceremonial question, What seems to be the issue? Patsy answered before air fully reached the room. The issue is that Brenda Nell and Kathy Sue have apparently raided Clara Jean's porch and laundered a memorial beaver into performing arts. The room broke. Volunteers laughed into their ribbon boxes. One old man near the extension cords actually sat down on a folding chair so he could laugh with structural support. Brenda flushed crimson. Kathy Sue looked as if she would willingly transfer churches to avoid the next 10 minutes. Clara Jean, however, remained very calm, which at her age was often the most dangerous state available. Take the hat off, she said. Now. Kathy Sue removed it. Take down the sign, Brenda did. And if there are tickets printed with his face on them, I suggest a controlled burn. Brenda apologized, then apologized again, more correctly. Then, under pressure, admitted the truth. Variety night attendance was weak. They wanted something quirky to pull in the crowd. Someone mentioned the beaver because everyone loves him. Once the flyer was mocked up, they got excited. He looked so right in the layout, Brenda said weakly. Ma'am, Earl replied, a casserole can look right in the layout. That doesn't make it castable. In the end, the matter was settled with the solemnity only retirees can bring to complete nonsense. The beaver was returned immediately. The flyer was withdrawn. The hat was confiscated. And a new rule was added to all future event procedures. No